Hey everyone! Welcome to Anime Dreams, your go-to spot for all things anime fanfiction. In today's episode, we dive into an exciting what-if scenario. What if Naruko encountered her ancestor? This is part 4 of the series, and it's going to be an epic ride. Quick disclaimer, the content here is purely for entertainment and discussion. I don't own the anime footage used in these videos, all credits go to the original creators and copyright holders. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. Team 7 was on their way to Wave Country, accompanied by Tazuna. Sasuke was quiet throughout the journey, either lost in thought or scanning the surroundings. Sakura spent her time asking Tazuna questions and trying to engage Sasuke, who didn't respond. Naruko, excited by the opportunity to explore, took in the scenery, her first time so far from the village. As usual, Kakashi had his nose buried in a book, occasionally chuckling to himself. Ichigo, following at a distance, stayed hidden in the trees, keeping a careful watch on the team. His mission was clear: observe Team 7's dynamics, Kakashi's leadership and training methods, and how well the team managed in the field. His orders were not to reveal himself unless the team faced immediate danger. His objective was to gather evidence to ensure that Kakashi would properly train Naruko and Sakura, not just focus on Sasuke, as Sarutobi feared based on past incidents. As the team continued, Naruko noticed something odd. A puddle had formed on the road, though the weather had been clear for weeks, with no rain in sight. That doesn't seem right, she thought. Her suspicions were confirmed when Saki, her inner spirit, spoke up. Be careful, Naruko-kun. I sense something off. I can feel it in the air. Taking the warning seriously, Naruko approached Kakashi. Hey, Kakashi-sensei, she called out. What is it, Naruko? Kakashi responded curtly, sounding annoyed. Well, I was thinking about that puddle back there. Don't you think it's strange to see it on such a hot day with no rain for weeks? She asked. Just stay focused, Naruko. Keep your attention on the path, Kakashi replied dismissively. Naruko felt frustrated at the dismissal but didn't argue. Before she could voice her concern further, 2 unfamiliar ninjas emerged from the puddle and attacked Kakashi with a chain. The 3 Genin watched in horror as the chain wrapped around Kakashi, slicing through him with a single pull. The 2 ninjas then turned their attention to Tazuna. Frozen in fear, Sakura and Tazuna were unable to move, but Naruko leapt into action, tackling them to the ground just in time. Get down! She yelled, though the chain struck her in the process. Sasuke, realizing their only chance was to use their position to his advantage, attacked from behind, pinning the chain with a few well-placed kunai. Naruko's vision blurred as she realized the chain was poisoned. I need to stay strong, she thought. Saki immediately began working to neutralize the poison. Naruko-kun, just keep fighting. I'll handle the poison, Saki urged, her voice calm despite the danger. Got it, Saki-chan. Naruko responded, summoning a few shadow clones to help Sasuke while she regained her strength. She felt the Kyuubi's energy counteracting the poison, bringing relief to her system, but Sakura was still frozen in disbelief at what had just happened. Why did you save me, Naruko-kun? Sakura shouted, still upset. I wanted Sasuke-kun to save me. She tried to strike Naruko, but the blonde ignored her and focused on the task at hand, launching herself back into the fray. Performing a few hand seals, she unleashed a powerful wind jutsu. Fuuten, de Tapa! She shouted. The wind blast sent the attackers flying into the trees, stunned for a moment. Naruko's clones closed in quickly, taking the enemies down. Ichigo, watching from his hidden position, couldn't help but feel proud of his student's growth and skill. Sasuke, still catching his breath, couldn't help but feel a bit envious. Naruko actually took them down with that wind jutsu. Where did she learn that? I need that technique, he thought, frustrated. Kakashi, finally recovering, emerged from his hiding spot. Well done, Sasuke. You handled that well, he said, praising the Uchiha. He turned to Sakura. You protected the client, good work. Finally, Kakashi looked at Naruko, scowling. Naruko, you were reckless. You didn't think about the consequences. That Fuuten jutsu was dangerous. You could have harmed Sasuke. If you can't work with the team, then maybe you don't belong here. Ichigo was shocked by Kakashi's words. Naruko was the one who tried to protect the team, even saving them from the attackers. Yet, Kakashi seemed more focused on criticizing her than acknowledging her effort. It took all of his self-control not to reveal himself and confront Kakashi right there. Naruko was just as upset. That person. I was only trying to help. She thought as frustration bubbled up inside her. Then where did you disappear to when you should have been here to help us? She retorted, her temper rising. The one-eyed Jounen's lone eye narrowed. I was trying to figure out who they were targeting until you interfered. I think it's pretty obvious they were after the old man. They made a direct line for him. She said loudly, dropping to one knee, still feeling the effects of the poison that hadn't left her body yet. The elderly man hurried to her side, quickly using a cloth to tend to the injury. Don't worry, young one. I know you were the hero today, and you got hurt while saving me. Thank you, Tazuna whispered as he carefully wrapped her wound. Naruko gave him a small grin and a nod. Thanks, old man. Kakashi began questioning Tazuna about why he had paid for a C-rank mission when it involved dangerous shinobi. The two assailants were Chunin-level nuke nin from Kiri, known as the Demon Brothers. They would have been easy for someone like Kakashi to handle but were a serious challenge for fresh Shinon. Tazuna explained that Wave Country was poor and couldn't afford to pay for a higher-ranked mission. He sighed, turning to Sakura and Sasuke for their opinions, ignoring Naruko. Sasuke merely grunted and expressed his desire to continue. Sakura hesitated but agreed with her crush. After Kakashi sent one of his hounds with a message about the captured prisoners, the group packed up and continued, leaving Naruko behind. Sakura glanced back at Naruko as she struggled to her feet, determined to catch up. She couldn't make sense of it. The person she often teased had just saved her life, while her crush had seemed ready to leave her behind. Naruko grumbled, would it kill you to wait for me? Unbelievable. As she slowly rose and hurried after them. As the small pug, Pakun, ran past her, another figure, Ichigo, jumped down to intercept him. Here, he said, holding out a scroll. Please deliver this to the Hokage. The dog eyed him carefully but noticed his Konoha Anbu uniform. What are you doing here? I'm on a mission from the Hokage, related to them, he said, pointing toward the direction Team 7 had gone. I can't share details, but it involves the Yondaime's legacy and Hatake's mismanagement of things, he added. Pakun's expression grew serious as Ichigo, or Kitsune, noticed. I trust you're aware of the situation? The pug nodded slowly. Yes, I am. That fool Hatake, I warned him that his actions would come back to haunt him, it sighed before regaining composure. So, the Hokage has decided it's time to keep an eye on Hatake? Ichigo nodded gravely. He has shown himself to be an unreliable teacher, and it's become a problem the Hokage no longer wishes to ignore. Pakun agreed with a grunt. Kakashi's behavior had gone on long enough, and it was only a matter of time before the truth came out. The small ninkin sighed, I'll make sure not to say anything to Hatake. I'll get your message to the Hokage. Thank you, Ichigo said, offering the pug some chakra in appreciation. For your time. Pakun nodded, taking the scroll and continuing on his way, while Ichigo set off to rejoin the team. I'm really starting to lose patience with you, Hatake. He muttered as he picked up his pace. Back with Team 7, they had set up camp for the night. Sakura stuck close to Sasuke, mostly out of habit, while Kakashi read his book. Tazuna rested beneath a tree, and Naruko crouched by the fire, cooking some fish she had caught earlier. She was grateful to Ichigo for teaching her how to fish quickly. She wiped her brow and called out, dinner's ready. Before she knew it, the fish were gone, and not a single thank you was heard, except from Tazuna. The fish were all devoured, including the one she had set aside for herself. When she looked over at Sasuke, he was holding 2 fish. That jerk. One of those was for me, she thought, frustrated, pulling out a ration bar she had hoped to save for later. Man. I was hoping to save this for later. Sakura watched as Naruko chewed on the ration bar with a grimace, while everyone else enjoyed the grilled fish she had prepared. The pink-haired girl felt torn as she observed the situation. Naruko looks so down, and no one seems to appreciate what she did, cooking dinner for all of us. She didn't even get to enjoy it, inner Sakura thought sadly. Who cares? That person should have caught more if they wanted to eat. Sasuke-kun needs food to perform, and Naruko just needs to stay out of the way, Sakura huffed. The person you call a fool saved your life today while your precious Uchiha left you unprotected. That foolish Uchiha nearly got himself into trouble until Naruko stepped in and had his back, she retorted, still upset by what had happened earlier with Kakashi and Sasuke. That's not true. Take that back. Sakura shot back, upset that someone pointed out Sasuke's weaknesses. Make me, inner Sakura taunted as Sakura lunged at her. With a well-placed fist, inner Sakura subdued the fangirl persona and took control of her body for a few moments. She looked down at her fish and saw that there was enough left to share with her teammate. She stood up and walked over to the log at the edge of their encampment where Naruko was sitting, preparing something. She tapped Naruko on the shoulder to get her attention, but to her surprise, Naruko jumped and flinched away from her. What is it, Sakura? Naruko asked, her voice shaky but still holding some suspicion. What is she up to? Sakura didn't show it, but it hurt that she wasn't being called Sakura-chan anymore. Inner Sakura, however, enjoyed it, knowing that someone cared enough to use her real name. Say, Naruko? Would you like to finish this? She asked, but she could see the skepticism in Naruko's eyes. Of course she's suspicious. I haven't been kind to her, she thought while coming up with a reasonable excuse. I just thought that since you were kind enough to catch and cook dinner, it's the least I could do, she said, offering the food. Naruko met her eyes, looked at the food, then back at her, and sighed. Thanks. But, no thanks. You eat it and keep your strength up. I don't want Kakashi-sensei or Sasuke blaming me if you get hungry and can't keep up, she told her, standing up and walking away. Wait. Where are you going? Sakura asked. To set some perimeter traps for the night, Naruko replied without turning around, heading off into the night. Just before Naruko disappeared from sight, inner Sakura lost control, and the fangirl persona regained it. Darn. Ran out of time. She muttered as she was pushed aside in her own mind. What is Naruko doing? Who cares, as long as she leaves us alone, Sakura thought, before going to talk with Sasuke. Kakashi may have looked like he wasn't paying attention, but he saw everything that happened. He also wondered where Naruko learned that wind jutsu and some of her fighting techniques. He'd heard that Naruko could barely defend herself, but during the test, she managed to give him a challenge for a brief moment. On top of that, Naruko had done better than Sasuke against the demon brothers, taking them both down. Kakashi was curious about who had been helping Naruko behind the scenes. Naruko came back to camp after setting her traps, looking forward to some rest when Sasuke approached her. Where did you go, Naruko? He demanded. Naruko let out a slight snort. Typical Uchiha, I see. If you must know, I was setting up perimeter traps to protect us from any more surprises, she replied, unrolling her bedroll. Sasuke wasn't satisfied with that answer, though. He grabbed the front of Naruko's jacket. Where did you learn that ninjutsu and clone jutsu? Who taught you? Naruko pushed his hands away. That's enough. Cut it out, Sasuke. Why are you mad that I might have learned something you didn't? Sakura saw and heard the argument, but inner Sakura flared up again. Oh, no you don't. Stay out of this. You'll just make it worse. How dare she talk to Sasuke-kun like that? Sakura raged in her mind. What Naruko learned is her business, not ours. Let her be, you've already caused enough trouble, Inner Sakura snarled as she retreated. Sakura sat down on a log nearby and observed. Because you don't deserve it, Sasuke growled at Naruko. Oh, and you do? Naruko retorted. A person like you wouldn't understand. I need more power. I need to protect my clan. Whatever. Just leave me alone. I want to get some rest, and you should too. She told him as she climbed into her bedroll. Sasuke, frustrated, glared but eventually settled down for the night as well. Naruko had only been asleep for an hour when she felt someone gently shake her awake. She opened her eyes groggily to see Kakashi crouched beside her. We need to talk, Naruko, he said, his voice firm. The one-eyed ninja led her slightly away from the camp to speak with her. What is it, Kakashi-sensei? She asked, not sure what the problem was. She had caught and prepared dinner, set up traps for their safety, so what was the issue? I know someone has been teaching you outside of our team sessions. That wind jutsu proves it. Now, who has been teaching you? He asked, his tone more serious than usual. Why does it matter so much? Aren't we supposed to be training whenever we have the chance and taking the initiative? I mean, maybe I've just been putting in extra hours of training, and it's starting to show results, Naruko remarked. Don't take me for a fool, Naruko. How could the underperformer improve so quickly on her own? That taijutsu looked advanced, and I've never seen it before. Few utenjutsu are rare in our village and would probably be beyond your capabilities. Now, who's been helping you? He asked more insistently, a hint of seriousness in his tone. My new neighbor, Ichigo-san. He lets me train with him when we can, and we hang out together, too, Naruko explained. She had been told that if Kakashi had any issues with her training, he could take it up with Ichigo directly. Naruko wanted to keep the contributions from Asuma, Anko, and others a secret, in order to protect them from any potential repercussions from the village council. I don't want you training with him anymore. You are my student, not his, Kakashi ordered firmly. What? But he's my friend. If he hadn't been training me, there's a chance we could have been in serious danger. Naruko protested. Don't argue with me, Naruko. That's an order. If I find out you've been learning from him again, I'll report you, Kakashi stated as he began walking back to the camp. Ichigo, who had been listening in, knew that Kakashi would likely be looking for him once they returned. But that was a problem for later. At least she didn't reveal everything. Kakashi has another thing coming when I file my report with the Hokage. I'll keep training Naruko, no matter how upset Kakashi gets. If he has a problem with that, he can take it up with me, not bully her out of it, Ichigo thought to himself, feeling determined. He made a few cage bunshine to keep watch while he rested. Naruko woke up and stretched the stiffness from her body before heading to the nearby stream to wash her face. After freshening up, she packed her gear and pulled out a ration bar to eat for breakfast. The lack of appreciation for her cooking the night before made her think she didn't need to repeat it anytime soon. The rest of the team began to stir as she sat on a stump, her gaze directed away from the camp. Kakashi was still a little frustrated with Naruko from the other day but set that aside as he ordered the team to pack up and get ready to move. They arrived at a small pier shrouded in mist, where Tazuna signaled a man with a boat. The gruff-faced man eyed the shinobi warily. These the ones, Tazuna? He asked. Tazuna nodded. The man sighed, shaking his head. I hope this is worth the risk we're taking. He then gestured for everyone to board the boat bound for Wave. Ichigo watched as the boat made its way to Wave and began walking along the water to meet it on the other side. He reflected on the mission so far and wasn't impressed by Kakashi's leadership, especially when it came to fairness with his team. The rest of Team 7 was following Kakashi closely, and it made Ichigo uneasy. From the beginning, Sasuke had rubbed him the wrong way. The kid had a bad attitude, plain and simple. Sakura wasn't much better, blindly following Sasuke without question. Kakashi, however, seemed especially dismissive of Naruko, often putting her down. Ichigo shook his head, feeling disheartened by the team dynamic. Team 7 disembarked at Wave and continued their journey towards Tazana's village. As they walked, Naruko noticed something rustling in the bushes. She threw a kunai at it, nearly hitting a snow-white rabbit. Sakura scolded her for startling everyone, but Kakashi actually acknowledged that Naruko might have been onto something. He realized the rabbit's fur shouldn't be white in late summer, meaning someone may have used it for a kawarimi technique. Suddenly, a thick mist rolled in, covering the area and putting everyone on high alert. Kakashi quickly threw everyone to the ground as a massive sword flew over their heads. A chilling laugh echoed through the mist. So many places to choose from. 8 instant death points. The heart, or maybe the head. A voice taunted, and a figure stepped out of the mist. Kakashi's visible eye widened in recognition. Zabuza Momochi. He muttered with a growl. Zabuza let out a mocking laugh. Sharingan Kakashi. What a small world this is, he said, amusement in his voice. Kakashi-sensei. Who is he? Sakura asked, her voice trembling. He's Zabuza Momochi, an A-rank criminal from the Mist Village, known as the Demon of the Mist for eliminating 100 of his classmates to graduate from the Mist Academy, Kakashi explained. Sakura turned pale with fear. Stay back and protect Tazana. I'll handle this. Zabuza's grin widened. Ah, such fond memories. But now, let's get down to business. Hand over the old man, and you and your team can walk away. Sorry, but we have a mission to complete, Kakashi replied, his Sharingan eye now visible. Oh ho! Resorting to the Sharingan already? I'm honored, Zabuza sneered in mock gratitude while preparing his Zanbatsu, making a hand seal that thickened the mist. His intense presence filled the air, freezing everyone but Kakashi in place with fear. Naruko, determined not to show fear, reassured her teammates that she would handle the situation, and the two jounin went head-to-head. Zabuza unleashed his water jutsu, and Kakashi mirrored him, countering his moves. What Kakashi didn't expect was for Zabuza to create water clones that immediately targeted Naruko and her team. Naruko and Sasuke were doing their best to fend off the attacking water clones but were getting pushed back. This is bad. Time to use another jutsu. Naruko thought, quickly forming several cage bunshine to hold the clones at bay for a few seconds. While doing so, she swiftly performed the hand seals for a more powerful wind jutsu, taught to her by Asuma-sensei. Once she saw Sasuke was clear and her clones were ready, she shouted, Fuuten, Fuer Yudan. A massive dragon of wind tore through the water clones with impressive force. The jutsu's roar caught the attention of both Kakashi and Zabuza. That kid's got talent, taking down my clones like that, Zabuza muttered, but Kakashi was still distracted. Seizing the opportunity, Zabuza trapped him in the water prison jutsu. Now, Kakashi could only watch as more water clones emerged to assault Naruko's team. From a distance, Ichigo, observing the situation, muttered to himself, that fool. He should have known better than to lose focus on his opponent. He concentrated, and with a sharp thrust of his hand, a blade of wind sliced through the clone army, stopping the assault. That should level the playing field, he said softly, preparing to move in and free Kakashi. However, he noticed Naruko was already in control of the situation. Without pausing to consider where the wind blade had come from, Naruko devised a quick plan to rescue Kakashi. She created more cage bunshine and instructed them to keep Zabuza distracted while she prepared another jutsu aimed directly at him. There was plenty of water surrounding Zabuza, so Naruko decided on a water jutsu. Suten, Suiryu Udan. She cried out, sending a water dragon toward Zabuza. With weapons flying and the water jutsu closing in, Zabuza had no choice but to abandon his current move to protect himself. He broke free from the battle momentarily, trying to regain his composure. Just as he was figuring out how Naruko could use two advanced jutsu without tiring, Kakashi swiftly appeared behind him and held a kunai to Zabuza's throat. Game over, Zabuza, Kakashi said, his voice calm. Before Kakashi could even blink, a trio of senbon pierced Zabuza's neck, causing him to collapse to the ground. A masked hunter nin appeared from the trees and addressed the group coolly. "I appreciate that you dealt with him. It made my job easier," the masked figure said, as he began to collect Zabuza's body. "Goodbye," he added, disappearing with Zabuza's remains. Once the mystery nin left, Kakashi collapsed from chakra exhaustion. Naruko, always looking out for her teammates, turned to Tazuna. "Hey, how far is your house from here?" she asked, since the others were quiet. Tazuna nodded. "Not too far. Just about an hour's walk." "I'll lead the way," he said, offering to guide them. Naruko nodded, carefully lifting Kakashi, and glanced back at her teammates. "You guys coming or what?" she asked, beginning the walk toward Tazuna's house. Sakura was completely confused. Twice now, Naruko, the so-called weakling and underdog, had succeeded in situations where Sasuke, the supposed genius, had struggled. Another thing that puzzled Sakura was how Naruko no longer fawned over her like she used to. Now, she simply ignored her, but still remained polite. Sakura's inner self was constantly frustrated, realizing how often she had unfairly judged Naruko. Was she right all along? Sasuke was furious. First, Naruko had eliminated two Miss Chonin almost effortlessly, and now she had saved them from the Mizu Bunshine and freed Kakashi from the water prison. He couldn't understand how she had managed to stay calm when Zabuza's terrifying presence had almost paralyzed him. During the battle, Naruko had used 3 high-level jutsu, at least B rank, that Sasuke had never seen her use before. In a rush of frustration, he jumped in front of Naruko, grabbing the front of her jacket. "Dobi, where did you learn those jutsu?" he demanded, his voice filled with anger. Naruko, unfazed, had expected this reaction. "Now's not the time, Sasuke. Let me go. We need to get to Old Man Tazuna's place before nightfall. Kakashi-sensei needs to rest," she said firmly. "Since when do I take orders from you, Dobi?" Sasuke retorted, his anger bubbling over. "Tell me now. I need that power." Naruko sighed. "You want power to avenge your family?" she finished for him. Yeah, we all know. The people who taught me these jutsu are my friends. You know, that foreign F word you don't seem to understand?" she told him, pulling his hand off her jacket. "Now, let's get moving so we can find somewhere safe for the night." Sasuke was ready to argue further when Sakura, surprisingly, stepped in. "Naruko's right. This won't solve anything. We need to get Kakashi-sensei to a safe place. We won't stand a chance if we get attacked again. Now let's go," she said firmly, standing up for her teammate. Tazuna, having had enough of Sasuke's tantrums, chimed in, "Cut it out, kid. Naruko's right. We don't know what else might be waiting for us if we don't move. Let's go." With that, they made their way to Tazuna's house just as the sun set. Ichigo was still observing from a distance, suspecting that the hunter nin might have been involved with that mysterious figure in some way. From what he had read, the hunters were supposed to dispose of the body on site and bring only the head as proof of death. Deciding not to pursue further, he focused on his mission to stay close to Team 7. He overheard the argument and realized Sasuke was becoming a problem. His attitude was becoming increasingly difficult, and he was now trying to pressure Naruko for information. Ichigo was surprised when Sakura stepped in to defend Naruko, especially since it was against her own crush. This unexpected action helped the team get back on track. He found a quiet spot in the forest near the old man's house to complete his nightly ritual, set traps, create a cage Bunshine security squad, and get some rest. Tazuna introduced the team to his family. His daughter, Tsunami, had a warm and nurturing presence, while his son, Inari, appeared to be upset and distant. After dinner, Naruko volunteered for the first watch. Sakura laid down on a bed Tsunami had provided, reflecting on the events of the day. "Did I do the right thing by arguing with Sasuke-kun?" she wondered. "All you did was defend your teammate and agree with a reasonable plan. Your crush wanted to stay behind and argue, but even Naruko didn't feel like getting involved after everything that had happened. So yes, you did the right thing, choosing the team's safety over indulging in personal feelings, inner Sakura reasoned. What if he doesn't like me anymore after we argued? This is all Naruko's fault. Sakura started to wail, but was cut off. No, inner Sakura interrupted forcefully. This is not Naruko's fault. She stepped up when it mattered, taking charge and keeping the team safe. She's showing leadership qualities that you and Sasuke haven't yet developed. Don't blame her for your own actions. It's time to face reality. The damsel in distress act doesn't work unless someone genuinely cares. If it weren't for Naruko, we'd be in danger, and the mission would have failed. Think about that. With that, inner Sakura faded, leaving her host to reflect. The next morning, Kakashi addressed the team. He had been informed that Naruko had been the one to get him to safety and had taken charge while he was incapacitated. He had difficulty believing it at first, but after reviewing the encounter with the Hunter Nin, he concluded that Zabuza was still alive and could attack again. Naruko muttered under her breath, "I knew it." Kakashi overheard and raised an eyebrow. "Naruko, care to explain what you just said?" She hesitated but then shared her thoughts. "I was doing some reading during our downtime and found that Hunter Nin are supposed to dispose of the body and bring only the head as proof of death. This hunter didn't do that. Also, the weapon he used was senbone. From where they hit, there's no way it could have killed him. I read that it's possible to put someone into a death-like state, though," she explained, to the astonishment of her teammates. Sasuke was the first to react. "How would someone like you know that?" he scoffed. Naruko narrowed her eyes. "I can read, Sasuke," she replied with a sarcastic tone. "My neighbor enjoys reading and studying, and he lent me some books on those kinds of things. It sparked my interest." "Naruko, what's happened to you? You were never like this," Sakura blurted out. "Do you think I liked being clueless, Sakura? Do you think I enjoyed pretending to be someone I wasn't just to fit in?" Naruko asked, her voice tinged with frustration. She paused, then turned her attention to the whole group. "I figured since I'd be on missions like this one day, I might as well learn something useful. Maybe it could save my teammates, like it did today." Her expression was a mix of sadness and determination. Naruko shifted the conversation and addressed Kakashi. "Kakashi-sensei, are there any exercises we can work on while you recover?" she asked politely. Kakashi blinked in surprise but soon smiled. "I have just the exercise for you all. Follow me," he said as he struggled to his feet. Inside, she was torn between feeling proud that her student took the initiative to study during his off time and took command while she was down, and also feeling frustrated that the student was the last in their class, rather than her star pupil, Sasuke Uchiha. She also couldn't help but feel angry that Ichigo was showing up again and teaching the blonde all sorts of useful things, while Kakashi had allowed her to stagnate. The orders from the council were clear: Naruko Uzumaki's growth must be suppressed. Her progress must be hindered so that her eventual departure on a mission wouldn't look suspicious. Ichigo was interfering with the plan. The team arrived at a clearing surrounded by tall trees. Kakashi turned to address his team. "All right, now the exercise I'm going to teach you is climbing trees." Sasuke scoffed at the idea. "What good will this do? Even the Dobi can do that." The copy nin shook his head. No. I meant without using your hands," he clarified, walking up to the tree and hanging from a thick branch, smirking at their reactions. He looked around and noticed that Naruko was missing. "Where's Naruko?" he asked, but a voice from above interrupted him. "Looking for me?" she called, hanging from a branch directly above him with a deadpan expression. Kakashi blinked in surprise, then commented, "Well, it seems you're ahead of the curve, Naruko, but can you do it again?" he challenged. Naruko shrugged and casually walked up the tree to a higher branch. "What now?" From a nearby tree, Ichigo was quietly laughing at the shocked expressions on Team 7's faces. He had been the one to teach her this, and it had only taken a few hours for her to learn. They had even been working on water walking before he left. The cage bunshine training method was incredibly useful when applied properly. Kakashi silently fumed. She wasn't supposed to know things like this. Hokage-sama needs to stop this Ichigo from interfering and stealing my student. He thought angrily. That's enough showing off, Naruko. Get down here, now, he ordered. Naruko and Ichigo exchanged a scowl, knowing what was coming. Naruko leapt down to the ground and faced her sensei. Why didn't you tell us about your abilities earlier? You should have shared them and taught them to Sasuke, she scolded. Naruko gave Kakashi a look, as if he had grown another head. Why should I? I know all about the extra training you give Sasuke after you send me away from our team meetings. I learned all of this in my free time, not from you, she replied, clearly not amused by his accusations or his blatant favoritism. Watch your tone with me, Janan. What I do after team meetings is none of your business, he retorted, his voice cold. He turned to the rest of Team 7. Now, I want the rest of you to give it a shot while Naruko and I have a little talk, he finished. Sakura watched the two of them disappear from view, reflecting on what had just happened. During this mission, Naruko had proven she was just as capable as Sasuke, but she hadn't once tried to talk to her or even glance her way unless the situation demanded it. Kakashi-sensei was acting very strange. Why would he be so upset that someone took the initiative to learn on their own? It almost seemed like he had something personal against Naruko. Inner Sakura was deep in thought. What is going on here? Why does Kakashi seem so focused on Sasuke and dismissing Naruko like that? Sasuke, meanwhile, was seething with rage at the fact that the Dobi had again shown herself to be superior. Naruko seemed like a completely different person compared to their academy days. It had all started the day of their team selections when she had become upset with them and that mysterious Jounin started showing up around Naruko, as if watching over her. Sasuke was desperate to get his hands on the power the tall blonde man had displayed so easily during their team test. I want that power. I needed to fulfill my vengeance against my brother. I'll make the council force him to share his secrets. Ichigo silently followed Kakashi and Naruko, not liking what he was hearing. Naruko, why won't you teach Sasuke those jutsu? He needs them more than you do. Naruko didn't respond immediately, instead casually cleaning her ear. What? I didn't hear you. My nonsense filter was clogged and I had to clear it out, she replied sarcastically. Stop that right now, Kakashi chastised, his tone stern. He needs those jutsu more than you. Maybe you could ask your neighbor to train him too, he added, his words tinged with desperation. Are you serious? He hates Sasuke and would rather cut ties with him completely than help after what happened the day you gave us that test, Naruko argued. What do you mean by that? Kakashi asked, genuinely puzzled. After you left, she tried to slap Sakura for no reason, but Ichigo-san stopped her with a small water blast and freed me from the log you had left me tied to. Sasuke attempted to convince her to train him, but she refused. Sasuke became frustrated and tried to attack her, only to be stopped instantly. Sakura begged her not to hurt Sasuke, so she let him go. Afterward, Sasuke thought it would be a good idea to roast us all alive with a gukakyu. Thankfully, Ichigo-san ensured we still had a team by protecting me and Sakura with a water shield. When the fire died down, Ichigo-san knocked Sasuke out and told us both to go home, saying that he would take Sasuke to you for punishment, as he believed it wasn't his place to do so. Kakashi swore quietly. After something like that, Sasuke was lucky that Ichigo only knocked him out, especially since Ichigo had every right to discipline him as he saw fit. It had been very reckless to attack a Jounin, particularly someone they didn't know. Sasuke was fortunate that Ichigo didn't report it to the Hokage and instead tried to handle it privately. There was no chance that the blonde man would teach Sasuke any of his secrets, much less Naruko. What will you work on now? I'm going to practice water walking. I had been working on it before the mission, she told Kakashi casually as she walked toward a small creek she had noticed on the way to the clearing. 1 week later, August 25th. Naruko had trained tirelessly over the next few days, balancing her duties in guarding Tazana and the bridge-building crew. She had even finally managed to walk on water, though it was still a little unstable. The only unusual event during this time occurred one night when she fell asleep near the creek where she had been training. She woke up to find possibly the most beautiful girl she had ever seen hovering over her. Naturally, Naruko became shy but greeted the girl warmly. My name's Naruko Uzumaki, Nei-chan." The girl, smiling warmly, giggled at her awkward greeting. "Hello, Naruko-chan. My name is Haku." "Haku Nichan, what are you doing out here?" "Collecting herbs for my precious person. He was hurt pretty badly, and I'm trying to help him." "Precious person?" "Someone dear to me." "Do you have someone like that, Naruko-chan?" Naruko thought for a moment. She thought of people like Ichigo, the Sandaime, Iruka-sensei, and others. Even her teammates crossed her mind, though they weren't as close to her heart. "Yeah, I do." They continued to chat for a little while longer until Haku had to leave. Haku had never met anyone quite like Naruko before, but she was glad to have done so. Naruko had become almost like a little sibling to Haku, and she felt as though she had known her forever. Haku could even tell that Naruko was a bit lonely herself. Naruko had taken to sleeping on the roof of Tazana's house, staying mostly away from her team outside of training, meals, and their shared duties. She wasn't rude, but she kept her distance from them, especially from Kakashi and Sasuke. Sakura had become unpredictable. At times, she was openly hostile toward Naruko, just as expected. However, on a few occasions, she had been somewhat caring, as though there was a part of her that genuinely cared for Naruko on some level. One night, however, wasn't as peaceful. With Ichigo's help and newfound understanding of the Kyuubi, also known as Saki, Naruko's nightmares had become less frequent. But this night, she was struck by a particularly terrifying dream. The bad dream was a memory of some of the times Naruko had experienced fear as a young child in the orphanage. Inside her seal, Saki was doing everything she could to calm Naruko down as she nervously reached for her chakra in distress. It didn't take long before Naruko's cries of pain echoed through the night, causing the other inhabitants of the house to wake up in alarm. Ichigo was the first to arrive, trying to soothe her when he sensed the rest of the team was waking up, and he knew he had to hide once again. As he stepped back, he asked Saki to help Naruko as best as she could, which she immediately agreed to. Saki worked urgently to awaken her vessel, but the seal prevented her from fully reaching her. The most she could do was try to gently coax her into calming down, offering her comfort to stave off the nightmares. Kakashi extended his senses and picked up a faint trace of the Kyuubi's aura. "Is the seal being disturbed?" he thought in worry as he rushed to the rooftop. The rest of Team 7 and Tazana followed quickly, and they were met with a troubling sight. Naruko was surrounded by a crimson haze, screaming and shaking as though in intense discomfort. Her hair was wild, and she appeared to have sharper features, her whisker marks darkened as though reflecting her inner turmoil. Sakura and Tazana were about to move forward to get a better look, but were held back by Kakashi. "No. Don't get too close to her right now. Wait for it to settle down, then we can possibly do something about this," he instructed. Sasuke watched with intense interest as he observed what was happening to his teammate. He had seen the crimson aura surrounding Naruko before and noticed how powerful it made her. He could feel the raw energy surging, radiating from her in waves. This power. Why does she have it and not me? Inside the seal, Saki was beginning to succeed in calming her vessel. She embraced Naruko as tightly as she could, and slowly, the haze around her began to dissipate. Naruko stopped convulsing and crying out in distress. For the first time in a long while, she cried openly, even though she wasn't fully conscious. Ichigo watched from a nearby tree, holding himself back from rushing to Naruko's aid. He needed to see how the team handled this situation and how Kakashi would respond. Naruko's closed eyes streamed with tears as she let out soft, pained sobs and moans in her sleep. "And no. I've been good. Why is this happening to me? I'm not a monster. I don't want to be alone." Saki couldn't bear seeing her vessel in such pain. This nightmare was worse than the others, and there was little she could do to ease it. In a desperate move, she gathered all her strength and broke through the seal, weakening it just enough. Seizing the opportunity, she let her consciousness flow out into the world. Suddenly, a red aura flared to life beside Naruko, and Kakashi pulled the team back. As soon as the aura died down, a ghostly figure could be seen sitting beside Naruko, her expression filled with sadness. Kakashi first thought she was a ghost, but as he looked closer, he saw her features. She had long crimson hair and eyes, 9 long fox tails, fox ears, and was dressed in an elegant kimono. The one-eyed man paled as he realized who the mysterious woman was. She gently lifted Naruko's head into her lap, singing a hauntingly beautiful lullaby while stroking her hair lovingly. Kakashi assumed a defensive stance, a motion Sasuke mirrored, but Sakura was unsure. The pink-haired girl stood captivated by the beautiful woman's song and the care she showed for Naruko. When the song ended, Naruko was peacefully sleeping again. The ghostly fox woman's eyes glistened with tears in the moonlight. "My precious little kit. I will protect you from your nightmares and what the village has done to you. I love you, my little Naru-chan," she whispered sadly, kissing Naruko's forehead before vanishing like smoke. The team heard the words spoken, each reacting in their own way. Tazuna and Tsunami were filled with sympathy for Naruko, understanding, at least in part, how she had been treated. Tazuna had a sense of what she had gone through, and Tsunami wondered what could have happened to Naruko to cause such deep pain. Kakashi began to feel guilt over how he had treated Naruko in the past but forced himself to push it away. He still harbored anger towards Naruko, blaming her for the loss of his teacher and teammate, Rin. Although he wanted to take action, the Hokage would ask questions, and with the team and client present, he decided against it. Sasuke was visibly upset. He felt outclassed by Naruko once again. The power she had made his abilities seem insignificant, and that was something he couldn't accept. He scowled in frustration and was about to leave the roof when Sakura called out to him. "Sasuke-kun, shouldn't we at least bring a blanket up here for her?" she asked with concern in her voice. He turned and glared at her. "Leave that loser up here. I don't care what happens to her," he muttered before jumping off the roof. Tazuna and Tsunami shook their heads sadly before following Sasuke down. Sakura stopped Kakashi before he could leave as well. "Kakashi-sensei, who was that woman? Why did she look so much like a fox? And why does she seem to care about Naruko so much?" "I can't tell you. It's a village secret, and revealing it comes with severe consequences. The only people who can tell you are the Hokage and Naruko herself." "But I doubt Naruko would share it willingly," Kakashi explained before jumping down from the roof. Sakura felt torn between her fangirl admiration for Sasuke and the inner voice telling her to find out more about Naruko's situation and whether she could help. What could have happened to her? What have we done? So what? That loser made Sasuke-kun upset with me. She can stay up here and freeze for all I care. The fangirl persona thought. That's it. I'm done with you. Inner Sakura shouted as she quickly took control of her body. Now in the driver's seat, she went to find a blanket for Naruko, who had suffered so much. She returned with a blanket from the bed Naruko was supposed to use and gently draped it over her. "I'm sorry, but this is the best I can do for now," she said softly before jumping down from the roof to get some sleep. The next morning, August 26th. The next morning arrived quickly. Team 7 was set to follow Tazuna to the bridge today. Kakashi noticed that Naruko was still resting, but decided to let her sleep and recover. He understood that drawing on her demonic chakra could be very draining for Jinchuriki and could deplete their strength quickly. Sasuke and Sakura began to complain, calling Naruko lazy, but Kakashi urged them to get moving anyway. At Gato's compound, Zabuza and Haku were preparing to fulfill their mission given by the corrupt businessmen, to eliminate Tazuna at any cost. Haku thought back to the brief encounter with Naruko in the forest, offering a wistful smile. She believed that the young, blonde Janan could have become a close friend, but she knew that now she would have to face her in battle, possibly even defeat her. Zabuza, on the other hand, was impressed by Naruko. She had actually managed to keep him and his clones at bay while rescuing her sensei, quite impressive for a rookie Jinan. However, the greedy businessman, Gato, wasn't content with simply killing Tazuna. He sent 2 of his most skilled swordsmen to Tazuna's house with orders to kidnap his daughter, Tsunami, and force her into his slave trade, while also killing his grandson as a public example to anyone who might oppose him. When Team 7 and Tazuna reached the bridge, a thick mist enveloped the area. Tazuna's workers were injured but alive. A sinister laugh echoed from within the mist. Zabuza. She's here, Kakashi warned his team. Sakura, stay with Tazuna. Sasuke, with me, he instructed as they took their positions. Zabuza taunted Kakashi and his Jinan, commenting on Sasuke's visible nervousness. I'm trembling, with excitement. Sasuke retorted, but just as he spoke, Haku made a move toward Tazuna, only to be intercepted by Sasuke. The two began to engage in combat. Meanwhile, Kakashi and Zabuza exchanged blows, kunai meeting Zanbatsu. At Tazuna's home, Gato's men had already captured Inari and Tsunami. Naruko awoke to the sounds of struggle and quickly moved to see what was happening. She rushed in to help, taking down the mercenaries swiftly. However, it wasn't enough. The mercenaries were furious and retaliated with all their strength. They were skilled swordsmen, keeping Naruko on the defensive and forcing her to retreat. She couldn't fight at her full potential, as she had to protect Tsunami and Inari. Ichigo, watching from nearby, saw the situation escalating and decided it was time to step in. He emerged from the water with a powerful burst, blocking a strike aimed at Naruko's head and throwing the mercenary back with strength. Uzumaki-san, are you alright? His voice was calm and collected. He still had to maintain his cover as an Anbu sent to assist Team 7, so no familiarity could be shown. Naruko looked up to see a tall, fox-masked Anbu standing before her. Why yeah. Thanks, she said, still in a bit of shock. What's an Anbu doing here? She wondered. Ichigo gave a quick nod and disappeared in a blur, reappearing behind the 2 mercenaries. In the blink of an eye, he resheathed his blade as they collapsed, defeated. Uzumaki, where is your team? There at the bridge. Wait a minute. Do you think Zabuza is attacking again? Yes, I do. Let's go. Right, Anbu-san. The 2 of them immediately dashed toward the bridge, hoping to arrive in time. Back at the bridge, Zabuza and Kakashi were locked in a fierce battle, while Sasuke and Haku were at an impasse. Growing tired of the game, Haku decided to use a more powerful technique. Hyotan, Senshatsu Suishu, she called calmly, as ice needles materialized from the mist and began to rain down on Sasuke, piercing him without mercy. Sasuke, growing more frustrated with each passing moment, felt as though Haku was simply toying with him, his pride bruised with every blow. He had activated his Sharingan, but it was draining his chakra and offering little advantage. Come out here and fight me properly. He shouted. That's all for today, everyone. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for your support. Anime Dreams.